Hello and welcome to our second Face Up debate. Today we will talk about the health issues, especially about the food industry, which nowadays is very important for the consumer society. To talk about this topic, I would like to invite our first two guests, Anne Selders from the International Department of the Media Center Benno from Germany. And our second guest, Max HAFEMANN, the student from Germany. Welcome, guys. Hi, thank you for coming.
Hey.
I would like to, as I said, we will talk today about the health issues, and we choose one aspect, which is the food industry, which is very much connected nowadays with the health, with our health, and with the health of society. And you, as the representatives of Germany, I would like to talk to you about the situation which is right now in Germany. And that's why my first question, how in general the food industry looks like in Germany? What is typical, what is not? Max, you can start.
Yeah, I mean, let's say we have a big change. Like, since a few years, actually since like 2 years, we are getting more and more conscious. Like, it's more about biological food. It's more about from where it comes, local, and the term behind that is like consumer responsibility. And we are going, like, we are taking less and less shops or restaurants like McDonald's and stuff in consideration.
Mm-hmm. And do you have the same impression?
Yeah, actually, you can also see it in the supermarkets. Of course, we still have like the mass industry of especially meat and other goods you can get. But like Max said, like for the last 2, 3, 4 years, even 5 years, I would say, there's a small transition that there are more and more, like, also besides biological foods, which are there already since 10, 15, 20 years, but more a shift to like vegetarian foods and even vegan foods, which you can get in supermarkets. And even the old companies have realized, which were like making meat all the time, sausages and salami and all that stuff. They realized, okay, there's a market for that. Most probably not for idealistic reasons. They just said, hey, we can also earn money there. So now you can get more and more vegetarian, like meat substitute stuff and also vegan stuff, and it's getting more and more in the supermarkets. And the people, especially young people, very young people, and like semi-grown-ups, they're more and more changing to like a more a healthier way of and a more idealistic way of eating foods by also taking aspects like the killing of animals into consideration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. What do you mean by saying that the people are more conscious about what they eat? What does it mean for you? Because you mentioned it, Max.
Yeah, it means that people start to ask themselves and their surroundings, like, from where it comes, what I actually consume, like, and what maybe my way of consuming things is maybe harming other people by, I don't know, the way the animals are feeded or whatever. We are destroying environment and stuff. So we are getting more conscious into that process, but not only because of the environmental things, but also because of the health. Like, we're talking about less chemicals and pollution in general.
And you mentioned that more, even the fast foods are taking care now that they have more salads and so on, because that's now the, let's say, the trend. But why it's happening actually that this kind of food is more and more popular, or that there are much more vegetarians than before, or vegans?
That's a good question. Maybe due to, I would also suggest it has to do a little bit with the uprising of the social media, and that you can get information everywhere now very fast, and that also you get like horrific pictures from like huge chicken dens where like dead chickens are lying on the floor, and people are saying, what, that meat is being made for me later to have in a supermarket in a very clean plastic, container, and and people are getting away from like telling kids like the salami is growing on the trees or something, and then just being put into like clean plastic containers or something, and through this social media, I think more and more people start to educate themselves and start thinking about also health issues. But that is the ethical aspect of a living being being killed in order to have something to eat. But I think it's also a health issue that more and more people are getting aware that, especially in the mass industry, a lot of antibiotics are used, or growth hormones, or stuff like that. Like everything which comes back into the cycle of the human being by eating it, and they're getting more and more aware of that, and they want to have an alternative. So that's why I think it's sort of becoming more and more popular right now.
Max, you want
Am I allowed to add
Yeah, of
something?
course.
And I also think that it's quite a logical development, because like this mass consume, like that everyone is consuming everything all the time, like really got its craziest point last years. Like we are really, there is no way to top that still. So it is logical that not everyone, but part of society is asking, okay, from where it comes and what it actually is doing with our world.
Max, your way to deal with all of these things which are happening to animals and to meat which we are consuming is that you choose the way of eating the healthy food, mostly bio food. Why is it so, and are you sure that it's really bio actually?
So why is it so? I mean, there are two aspects for me in bio. First aspect is, as I already mentioned, the environment, like what is the food which I consume doing to my environment and to the earth itself, and also what it is like, what is the content like, what is maybe the chemical stuff inside which I don't want to actually consume, but which is like hidden in the product. So this is the two aspects for me why I prefer bio. And to meat connected, in meat I'm really taking care about local, like that it's really not that far to travel for the meat, and also that I can maybe in a way check how the farmers are treating the meat or the animals before. Can I be sure that it's bio? Of course I can't be sure, but I think that it's still better to buy the bio which is even just certified by European Union than buying the normal stuff, because it's really proven that there's less chemicals, pesticides and stuff like inside.
You mentioned already about this regional aspect. So, because regional does not mean bio, and bio does not mean regional also. So, which actually ways are better to choose, the bio or the regional one? Aren't?
It depends on what you want. Of course, you also have bio-regional products. But I think the most important thing with the bio is what Max said, is with the synthetic fertilizers and chemicals. What most people don't know, that there's like a factor called the chemical residue in a normal food. If you intake it, the residue is like 30-40% of this fertilizer used, and for example in biological foods just 7-8% or something. And the question is bio better? Of course, there are also scandals with bio everywhere where human beings are involved. People always try to make profit, even with a bio signet. But I think in general, especially in Germany, you can be relatively secure that it's bio. And the regional aspect has many different aspects, meaning first of all, people don't want the food to travel like thousands of miles until it reaches you, which is like a bad CO2, statistic. But also they want to support local producers. their local economy, you know, and from the producer, they want to the distributor and to the consumer. So it's like a healthy circle of food which is regional. It doesn't necessarily have to be bio, but at least you know that between, let's say, harvesting or even killing the animal and being able to consume it, it's not that far gone. It's just very close, you know, or for fruits, for example. And what is also important with the bio aspect is the biodiversity, meaning what most people don't know, of course, big companies in the mass production, they use special seeds which they think are very resistant against small animals, you know, eating them and all that stuff, resistant for travel. So it's very like a monoculture, you know, and then all the biodiversity is gone. And bioproducts, they try to keep that biodiversity, at least by not producing the same apple brand every time, but maybe like different apple brands. Like it's called Streuobst, you say in German, for example. You know, instead of this one Tenny Royal Gala apple, which is produced in mass production everywhere, you know.
But don't you think that in Germany, for many people, actually, that it's kind of now not actually being conscious, but it's more like a fashion to buy bio or to be vegetarian or to be vegan because it's cool? Those restaurants are gathering those kind of people who are not eating meat, but for example, for the reasons like this, that it's just trendy and fashion.
Of course, I mean, everything what is giving profit, as you already mentioned, is always also like because of a trend, yeah, that people are taking it. But I mean, it's maybe one of the trends which are actually giving a benefit to society. So I actually don't care so much, and it also becomes, of course, attractive because I mean, it's good to ease your conscience. And in this way, it's actually, I mean, I hope at least, less allied than, for example, spending money to UNICEF or something. That was popular like 10 years before. People spend money and they said, oh yeah, I did something, so now I can go and again spend the other money I have for myself. And biological food is something which is really a good investment in the future also, like in yourself, but also in the place we are living in.
Were you, both of you, were you not thinking about being vegetarian, for example, and not buying the bio meat, just completely quit it?
Well, I don't eat so much meat anymore. I'm honest, I like the taste of meat, and in that aspect maybe I'm weak from my psychological part, but I try to, as much as possible, I try to buy like bio stuff, you know, and eat less meat, you know, like maybe just once a week or something. And I try to avoid like buying a big package of chicken wings for €1.90 or something, you know, which everybody with a rather small conscience knows that something is wrong there if a big package of chicken wings costs €1.95, which normally should cost €5 or something, or €6 or something. And of course you can make a difference, but then again there's also the economic side, meaning now biofood is a bit more expensive than like the normal food. And of course for people who don't earn so much money, sometimes it could be difficult to completely just live from stuff like that, because it could be, sometimes it's like 30-40% more expensive than just going to a discounter and buying, you know, like those chicken wings for €1.90. So, but I don't think it's, of course, everything is a trend somehow, but like Max said, this is at least a good karma trend, so I also don't care if it's where it came from. I think there should be more, and I, you know, one of my biology teachers, against a lot of resistance of parents, and some parents didn't allow it, he went to a slaughterhouse with us when we were 15, 16 to see how like salami is made, you know, and of course it was like everybody knew it in the back head, yeah, something is dying, but to see like the whole process, mechanical process, you know, was really tough, you know. And I remember I really started thinking about, okay, I have to quit doing before that I was eating like meat in the morning at the breakfast lunch and dinner, and so I started eating much less. And I think they should introduce that in schools, maybe in the 10th class or 11th class, just to or at least per video or something, to show them that, what it means, mass production for meat, for example.
Max, were you not thinking about being vegetarian?
Yes, I was thinking about that, and I'm same as Arndt. I'm also eating a lot less meat than I did in the past, which is called in nowadays flexitarian, to stay with the terms of trend. Yeah, and I don't know. It's just that if I see something like I'm somewhere and people cooked for me, for example, I'm a guest or something, it's unpolite for me, for example, to reject that and say, no, I will not eat that because it's made or there's meat in or whatever. So I think as long as you keep it conscious and you know from where it comes, because this is a rule which I don't like to cross or not take in consideration, it's okay to eat a bit meat, but very conscious and very rarely.
That's behind all of this food industry. It's of course hidden the economy situation of many, many countries, and I would like to ask you about TIPP, which is Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. Arndt, could you explain us a bit what is it about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like an overnight expert. I knew before, but I did some research last night, and that's why I have some cards here, because it's a rather shady and very diverse thing. It's called the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. In German, it's called TTIP, and it's between the EU and the USA. And just to imagine what kind of market that is, those two markets are like make together 60% of the global GDP and like 33% of the world trade in goods and 42% in the world trade of services. So it's like almost a half or more than a half. And they started negotiating this like in 2013, and actually they wanted it to finish last year, but most probably it's still gonna last negotiating it to 2019 and 20. It's supposed to promote trade and multilateral economic growth. And there are three areas which they are discussing and negotiating. First is a market access for goods and services, meaning that they want to remove the custom duties on goods and restrictions on services. Although one must already say between the EU and USA they are already very low, these restrictions. There are not many anymore, but these they want to remove also. And everybody should get, no matter where he lives in the EU or in the United States, access to public markets, meaning you can offer your goods there, and easier investment policies, meaning that there are not so many obstacles in investing in companies or whatever regions you want to invest. And then the second area is specific regulations, meaning that they want to achieve a coherence and cooperation in the regulatory, meaning they want to match it more and more together, and they want to dismantle unnecessary regulatory barriers, which is one criticism, which I will come to later. And the third thing is they want to negotiate broader rules and principles and modes of cooperation, meaning when it comes to international standards, they also want to level it to the same level, so that, for example, when you build a car in the EU or in the United States, that there are the same standards for how the blinker lights are. Now, for example, in the United States, they are red. In the EU, they are orange. That's just a very simple example. That's what they want to standardize. And as soon as the negotiations are finished, the 28 governments have to approve or reject it in the EU Council and even the European Parliament. They can reject or approve it, and both houses of Congress in the United States also have to approve or reject it. And assuming it will be approved, then they think that they'll have, all in all, like for the EU, like a benefit of 100 billion euro, for the US also 90 billion, and for the rest of the world. And like one person said, 1/3 of the world market will be liberalized. Now comes the criticism, of course, for this. One of the biggest criticisms is the secrecy of the content and the negotiations, meaning there's no public debate on this, except if documents are leaked or if persons start talking about it. And the whole negotiations and the papers, especially right now, since some papers were leaked 2 years ago, the secrecy is so high that normal citizens don't even know what's going on with this negotiations and agreements. And of course, the people who are pro this agreement, they're saying it's going to be a huge economic benefit for everybody, especially also for the households. And the criticisms amongst them, a lot of experts in the economy say for each household in the EU, like the benefits from such an agreement are ridiculously small and almost mediocre, meaning mostly big corporations and companies will have a profit from this because they can much easier get into markets without having too many regulations. And that's also another criticism, the lowering of barriers of regulations. Normally, one would think you try to lever it somewhere in between, or you take a really sensible regulation and the others who don't have it adapt to it. But of course, big corporations and companies always try to adapt to the lowest standards, especially considering food safety or environmental sustainability, for example. And that's one big criticism which is there. And another criticism is that 90%, there are like 24 working groups who are negotiating this, and in these working groups are like 90% of the people are lobbyists from companies. And there are very, very little people from NGOs or unions or other public bodies who are able to take part in these negotiations, and even politicians, you know. Like, for example, our Chancellor Merkel can't just join these negotiations, which is ridiculous, you know. She can't even have a look at the papers, except for now, our working minister had an agreement that now there's a room in the parliament where you can go inside, but you have to leave outside photographs, your cell phone, keys, whatever you can make any documentation with. You can go inside and have a look at the folders for a couple of minutes of time, make some notes on special paper which is given to you, and then only take like a few notes out. Yeah, and that's and then afterwards those people should decide this treaty once it's negotiated. That's another criticism. And the biggest, of course, they're afraid of that existing labor standards are undermined, workers' rights and job security and all that stuff, which is very high in Germany, for example. And of course, they're afraid that it's going to be lowered down to other standards, like in the United States. You know, all the achievements which were made by unions in the last 50 years or something. And one of the biggest criticism is the so-called, I have to read it because I didn't know the exact name, it's the ISDS, it's the Investor-State Dispute Settlement, meaning if a company invests in Germany, for example, and it thinks that the German government has made laws or a law which is hindering them in having success with their investment, they can bring a case directly against Germany hosting this investment in a so-called like external court which nobody really approves, at least not we people. So like some people put those courts together, and then they can sue this government. And the criticism is that is of course undermining national laws, and that most criticizers think that there are already cases in the drawers of companies saying, okay, we will invest in, I don't know, fracking or something or whatever. And then, as soon as the government makes a law, they take out these cases, go into this shady thing called this investment court external, and then they can sue the government. And they say, oh, I think we would have made 40 million euro. Now, since you made this law and we can't make our profits anymore, you will have to pay those 40 million euro. And who is the state? Is we. So the taxpayers then have to pay them the benefits which they think they lost. And that's one of the biggest criticisms in this whole negotiation thing. And there's like, for example, between Canada and the United States, it's already they have a treaty, and there's already a lot of examples where companies are just wildly suing Canada as a state because they think Canada hindered them in making profits. And that's something which I also say is not appropriate. And that's why it's my personal opinion, I would say neither of the European governments should ratify such a treaty. I have nothing against free trade or something, but it has to have regulations and rules, and of course you have to level them somewhere, and maybe also some German laws have to be a bit weakened, but in general it should be for the people and not for the big companies.
Yeah, the question is now because probably it will come, maybe not, I don't know, there is many protests behind it, but nobody knows what will happen, and the thing is that actually already now it is not that easy for the consumers itself, because of course you can decide that you will buy bio, and as more people will do this it will be better, but I have the good example of my friend from Poland who is a farmer, and he was selling his seeds, and he decided that he will not use any chemicals. He didn't have the bio certificate, but he just didn't want to use any chemicals. On the checking point, they noticed that there are some worms inside, so they gave him the half of the price. So he decided to put the chemicals, and the worm was still there, but it was already dead. And afterwards, after using these chemicals, even if the worm was still there but dead, he got the higher price. So the thing is that the industry or the economy is forcing many farmers or many consumers to accept the situation like it is now. And also, as you, Arndt mentioned, what with those poor people who have no money to buy bio products?
Now, what is the question?
What the normal consumer should do? Because you can't fight with the big law of the country, for example, how it is, or with the big industry of buying the seeds and giving the price for the dead worms or the alive worms, just because of the chemicals.
I mean, there are several ideas about that. One is that you are searching for a farmer which you maybe personally know, who is not like playing that game. Another one is called urban gardening, which is like many people are starting to grow their own vegetables or their own fruits and stuff, often also in cities, like on rooftops you have it, that it's in a public place and you can use it like you want, and there's a plan and like a group of people who are really like making meetings and growing the stuff and taking care about it. I think that's it so far. Like, these are the both things. One last thing to TTIP or TTIP. The state of the art in the moment is with the last thing that Arndt mentioned with these external courts. The major, I think it's the major of European Union, Juncker, Jean-Claude Juncker. He currently, recently, reacted to this big demonstration, and he said, okay, we will not continue the negotiation with the USA in this point. And then they went on the street and they told the people in EU, okay, tell us what is your idea how we should solve the problem. And now they have around 150,000 ideas, which they are checking in the moment. And maybe there will be a solution how you are working with these external courts and stuff. Because the problem with the external court, apart from that it's not approved, is that often a part of this court is a part of the company as well. So the decision is already made actually before any law could work.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly there were people who already worked for a company going to that court, or who tell them, if you make the right decision for us, maybe you can get a nice job later in my company. But that's another aspect. What can people do? Well, like I said, regional foods, biofoods, if you can afford it. But I'm also hoping that that's why it's postponed till 2019-20 most probably, that they're realizing they can't just rush it through the governments and all the people who say yes and amen and everything. And so I'm hoping that, like, to all those critical points, they will have some adjustments so that this treaty is not only for the big corporations and companies, but also for the people and consumer rights. And also for the environment, because that's another thing, the environment, of course, some companies would rather have no or less environmental standards they have to take care of than more. So I'm hoping that they're going to negotiate this, and in my opinion, it should be public. I mean, why not have also NGOs discuss this? I think that I never heard a union or an NGO say we're against a treaty like this, but we just are against some points which are also, in my opinion, a bit ridiculous. So I'm hoping for the next years that they're going to make a proper treaty for this.
Yeah, the last issue which I wanted to talk to you is the issue which is connected with environmental protection, actually, because there are the groups of people who are called veganists, who are basically eating the wastes of the supermarkets, and mostly those wastes are actually in a very good standard. It's just that after 2 or a few days they have to just throw it. And how is it regulated in Germany? Because in most of the countries, the supermarkets or bakeries, they are not allowed even to give the wastes to the other people. They are obliged to throw them. So the question is now how it is, first of all, in Germany, and is it make sense? Because at one point we are buying bio and so on, but on another hand, there is so much food wasted, even this cheap one, starting from meat, finishing really on the fruits, and so on and so on. So first of all, how it is in Germany, and then...
Regulation is in the moment, or law is in the moment like this, that the shop can decide on its own if it gives it away, like after it, like in case that it wants to throw it. But as soon as you are going to the trash bins and stealing it, it is stealing, because the trash, which is ridiculous, belongs still to the supermarket or to the shop. So you are stealing officially. But because of this society change, also police is handling that more like an obligatory, yeah, like, oh, okay, you are catched, and then they are taking you and they let you go again. But also more and more shops are starting which have agreements with other big supermarket chains, and they are just going there, taking the food and then resell it for some money, or maybe give it for free away. That's starting to be very popular, of course.
Yeah, and I hope that Germany or the rest of you would do it like France, for example. I think they just made a couple of weeks ago a new law that supermarkets are not allowed to throw away their food anymore, but either they have to give it away or leave it standing there open so that people can take it. So I'm hoping that this will happen. And it's also up to us as a consumer. Why are the supermarkets doing this? Because we always want to have nice, fresh vegetables in the places where you can buy it, you know, and they have to be straight and not crooked. And if they have some ditches, then people say, oh, I won't buy this anymore. So it's also up to us as a consumer to make the supermarkets clear, hey, even if there are the ditches or dens inside, we will still buy it. And of course you can start. Another thing is, like this best before thing, you know, on some people are really now we have the 16th, best before was 13, I'll just throw it away. I'm saying it's stupid. Open it and try it, because mostly even 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks even, I also witnessed something, it was like 6 weeks after the best before you could still eat it. No, but we're like a waste society. People are just throwing away everything and buying it new because it's cheaper. And another aspect which has nothing to do with food actually is also with other goods like machines. I remember 20 years ago you could give a machine for repairing. Now, if you go somewhere to have a machine repaired, they laugh at you and say, what do you want? We don't even have spare parts here in the shop. Hey, it's cheaper to buy a new machine. You know?
The new things are
because
cheaper
of
than
course the companies want to earn money, but this is also environmental aspects for me totally ridiculous. And I hope that we also get a law here that allows to come back to food, that you can take the food or give it away. I mean, where's the problem? But also we have to change as a consumer.
Because don't you also think that there's supposed to be a change that the supermarket should have just a certain amount of the stuff, not because the consumer is already in this position that when he's going to the supermarket, everything should be there. But maybe the thing is that it shouldn't be in our head like this. If you are too late, it's not there anymore because that was just a certain amount of the food. But because of the consumer loyalty, the supermarkets, of course, are buying till the end. So that's why there is so much waste.
Like I said, the consumer, you know, or like strawberries the whole year, you know. In
That's
the past, it
another
was
issue.
just in the season you had strawberries, and then after the season not. And now you have it all the time, and they come from, I don't know, South America, a lot of CO2 by traveling to Europe, and a lot of energy for cooling and all that stuff. But that's up to the consumer, you know.
And also, like these vegetables, for example, I mean, brings us to one other aspect, which is the people who produce that food, like who grew for us the strawberries and stuff. They are often exploited, and especially a big company called Nestle, which is standing behind that, and which is standing behind actually, I would say 95% of brands, even if it's not called Nestle, but it is Nestle. And they are really really very unresponsible with the areas where they are producing in, and they are really controlling the market in a crazy way. And also like about chemicals and stuff, you can see a lot of documentations in the internet about that, and that is really another big thing for me.
So I guess on one hand, that we need to have a balance, that on one hand the big companies should a bit take care more about the environment, but also on another hand, and not take care so much about the profit, but on another hand also the consumer should have the proper responsibility for what he is eating and what he is buying and how much.
Yeah, but I think the first is wishful thinking. I think you have to force them to take care by regulations, and that's when we're back at TTIP. Of course, these big companies, it's not only Nestle, it's Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Mars. They all have like 4 or 5 big companies who are like almost have 99% of the global market, and are also now having like branding like seeds and all that stuff. Monsanto, for example, the big company, and they're like totally irresponsible. That brings us back to fair trade. That's another thing besides bio and regional products. Of course, there are also some negative examples, but there you can also be a bit more sure that with coffee or chocolate or something, that at least the local farmers in Africa or South America, wherever, Asia, are treated a bit better than like for the general big companies like Nestle. And also considering water, for example. What many don't know, or Coca-Cola, if you drink your Coca-Cola, a lot of people don't have local water anymore because the big companies suck up all the water for the Coca-Cola, Fanta, Sprite, you know. But there you can also make a decision as a consumer, you know. I know it's difficult because it's tasty, but it depends on what you want. So you can make a difference. And I think the big companies can only be forced by laws and rules and regulations. Them by themselves saying, okay, we'll have 10 billion less profits, and therefore the environment is nice. I think it will never happen, unfortunately.
You wanted to add something? No. Okay. So thank you very much, guys, for the good conversation and for coming.
You're welcome.
I would like to invite the next guests. Thank you very much.
Yep. Bye.
You are free. We organized our debate on the last day of the Media Camp Face Up. And I would like to invite the 2 of the participants of this training, which is BIRSU KILIÇARSLAN from Turkey. And Daniela Popa from Romania. Hello, ladies. Thank you for coming.
Hello.
you heard a lot about the food industry in Germany. And I would like to use the occasion that you are from Turkey and you are from Romania and ask you how it is actually in your country. What is the trend? What is the fashion? And how it looks like, the food industry in Turkey? Let's start.
Okay. First of all, in Turkey, we generally don't eat pork meat, but on the other hand, we're a kind of very meat lover country. In our Turkish cuisine, I mean, all the foods, generally almost all the foods include meat. It doesn't matter, chicken, fish or beef, etc. And so it's a cultural thing, it's a cultural issue for us. And it's also, I think, a part of being a Mediterranean culture and a kind of, macho culture. In Turkey we do believe in that to have a body strength, enough body strength and to be healthy is coming from a part of animal products a lot. Like children should drink, 2 glasses of milk every day and should eat butter of honey, at least 1 slice of bread on it in the breakfast or 1 egg, this kind of things. So yeah, we do consume and eat products coming from animals, including your honey, milk, eggs, cheese, yogurt, and etc. a lot. So yeah, we are a meat lover country and we are an animal product lover country. But recently, I think being vegetarian or being a vegan, increases a lot because when I started to study at university, I have only maybe 1 friend who was vegetarian, but when I graduated, it was like, a lot of people. So yeah, that's all.
So on one hand, you are saying that it's the culture issue, but also actually the religion issue, because in case of pork, it's because of your religion. Can you tell us actually why you can't eat meat? Not meat, the pork meat?
Yeah, it's a part of religious issue, that's true. In Islamic culture, it says, it's a kind of forbidden eating pork. And I have some Jewish friends, and I think in Jewish also, because they told me they don't eat pork meat a lot, maybe on the, how can I say, the first kind of beginning. But by time, a lot of habits and a lot of traditions has changed also. And also, in Turkey, I think as a country, we didn't produce pork meat very, very often, even though a lot of pigs are, living in Turkey, but we were not hunting or producing them. And maybe a few years ago, they just created some farms. They developed these kind of pork production processes to export the pork productions to abroad. Then we started to see some kind of pork meat, like salamis, etc., in very big supermarkets. Now, yeah, you can find pork meat, but it's not very often. It's not very common. And beside that, also, I don't know. Yeah, we didn't see, so we didn't recognize. We didn't grow up with that cultural habit. So, I mean, when I'm on abroad, I don't look for like pork meat, and also I don't look for like beef or chicken, etc., because I can eat, egg, milk. I can drink milk. I can find a lot of things easily. Yeah, that's all.
How it is in Romania?
Well, I guess it's pretty much the same. We are also meat lovers. We eat a lot of meat, but we kind of have the same comparison, I would say. Because we are Christians, in some periods of the year, like I don't know, up to 2 months, we are not allowed to consume anything that has animal part. So we are kind of the same. I mean, we are pretty much close to Turkey, but the thing is that people usually just eat meat because they think it's cheaper than vegetables, which is wrong, because in 3 months a year they don't eat meat and they don't complain it, but when they are allowed to do it, they are putting the blame on government and making the prices too high on vegetables and I don't know, eggs or things like this. But lately, I guess things are getting a bit better. I mean, going in a better direction. And bio market, it's growing, not so big as we would like to, or how people would expect it. But it's getting bigger and bigger. And at least in Timișoara, you can find many bio places to eat or just to buy the actual food. So I guess we have chances to make things work.
But as soon as in both countries you consume so much meat, or it's so popular to do this, do you know how the treatment of the animals looks like? If it's really bad, for example, like in Germany, some documents are showing that the chickens or the cows are treated in a very bad way with the antibiotics and so on and so on. And as soon as in your countries bio it's not that popular, do you know what you eat actually if you eat meat in Turkey?
Well, it's a kind of very detailed question. Yeah, for example, personally, I have thought about it a lot, and with a lot of friends, you know, we've discussed. Yeah, we have some documentaries which shows that, you know, in farms and like fabricatory places, they don't treat, maybe they didn't treat the animals in the way it should be. It's not about, you know, just showing a right. Also, they are there just to maybe just finalize the process, but it doesn't matter because they have a right to live and just to watch, you know, they're just growing to be killed and then to become a kind of, you know, a kind of meal for us. It's very sad, yeah. And like I was a kid, I don't remember, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, there was a kind of a documentary and like research program. And there were, you know, very good journalists producing this program, and they were visiting some farms just to watch and just to show people how is it in the reality. Then a lot of visits started by government to those places. They started to check, and they started to give certificates or started to close or just end the processes. And started to take the already produced productions from the market just to, you know, not to eat and consume them, so the companies should not would not give them the money. So these processes started to be more and more, how can I say, realistic. But on the other hand, I mean, I'm not like behind the camera, so I don't know how is it going on really, what are we eating. So personally, I don't prefer to eat very kind of mixture products like salamis, you know, jambons, etc. Too many, and we have a kind of religious celebration. We call it bayram. It's a kind of kurban bayram, sacrifice the animals. I know it sounds very terrible, but it's just to show that if you do need to eat meat, yeah, you need to grow the animal. You need to be with them. I mean, you need to live with them, just you need to see. And if you just fall in a kind of need just to survive, then yeah, you know, those animals do love you also, and they will sacrifice themselves for you. So yeah, you can cut and you can eat. It's a kind of biological culture also. But by the time, I think we have lost this real meaning inside of it. We are just celebrating it, you know, we're with family, yeah, we're eating dinners, but a lot of people, they do consume only real meat related to those traditional celebrations. So we do know, yeah, that meat is coming from a real animal and it's not a mixture. So it doesn't, you know, include any chemicals because those animals comes from real farms. I mean, personal care also, just you need to look and search.
Daniela, how it is in Romania? The situation of animals?
Well, I personally don't eat so much meat lately. I'll be honest, I eat meat, but not so much as I used to do it in the past. Actually, in the first 10 years of my life, I was a vegetarian, But I was just, I mean, I was a kid. I simply didn't like the taste. I was like, it's yucky. But as I grew up, I started to eat it because my family was consuming it, so I basically had to. But now that I realize what's going on, I started to not eat it that much. But the situation in Romania, not my case, people don't really care about what's going on. They need to eat, they buy the food, the end of the story. If you're trying to show them, okay, let's have a small talk about what's really going on, they will say that you're, I don't know, some kind of religion thing, addicted. I don't know how to describe it, but they will not take you seriously, and mostly they will have a fight with you because you have different kind of ideas. And who are you to tell this? How come that you don't know? Do you think that they are silly and they don't know? So mostly they don't really care about this.
So is it like this that you barely can find vegetarians or vegans in Romania, or
you can find them, but they are usually I don't know, let's say more than 0.5%. They are young people, so you can talk in a different manner with a young person that with a grown person. So you can find them, but usually, as I said, just for the young people. But vegans, that's actually an interesting idea. It's so rare that personally I don't know any person, a vegan person in Romania. I'm not just in my country, and I have a good network, and I really have no idea about some person like this. This includes not knowing a pub or a restaurant or something. I really literally don't have any clue about these kind of places. But in comparison with vegetarian, though we are meat lovers, you can basically find everything anywhere. It's like you have the same options. So being a vegetarian is much more easier than being a vegan. I guess you have pretty much no options in this time.
so I guess you have none of the vegan restaurants or something like this, or the stands in the supermarkets?
We don't.
But at least you have some of the vegetarian restaurants,
Yes.
or the places, so it's not that
the
difficult to be vegetarian.
Yeah, the vegetarian is like pretty much on the same level with the normal restaurant, so you have no problem with this.
How it is in Turkey? Is it easy to be a vegetarian, or not that much?
I think it depends on, again, your choice, but in my personal case, it's not very easy because, you know, we're promoting a lot of meals. Döner, you know, in Greece, they call it gyros. Döner, kebab, you know, it's always, and also a lot of hot dog corners. Yeah, we do like it too. So in every step in the street, you are just seeing a place which is selling a kind of meat. And it smells, and they are in the same time they're just cooking it. So it's a kind of promotion, marketing issue, just calling the people. So if you want to be a vegetarian, if you don't feel it like, okay, some people do not like eating meat, yes, but if it's an idea in your mind, yeah, I can try to be a vegetarian, like it, it's a real torturing in the street because, you know, it smells, you're smelling it, you want to taste, if you're hungry or just running, yeah, it's quite hard. I have a friend from Germany. He was doing in our school his Erasmus exchange, and he was vegetarian, so he was telling the same thing. It was so hard to be vegetarian or to keep that thing. I mean, to be vegetarian is so hard in Turkey. So we were just going a lot of restaurants and places. Yeah, he can find a lot of things for himself, or any vegetarian or vegan person can find a lot of things, but it's a very big restaurants and cafes, so also you do see meats next to the vegetarian food. And I think it's not very appropriate for a vegan person or vegetarian because they are not eating meat, just they do believe in some rights. And when they see, you know, next to their falafel plate, just some kind of meat, it's not very appropriate. Maybe they are just becoming, I don't know, sad. So But on the other hand, there are a lot of vegetarian places just to go and hang out, eat something, a lot of beautiful cafes, and veganism is started to increase also, but not so popular as popular as vegetarian places.
Did you meet any Turkish vegan person
Yeah.
in Turkey?
Yeah. I have a friend. She first of all decided to be a vegetarian, and after like 1.5 years, she decided to be a vegan. It was the first person that I heard about, vegan, real vegan. It was, for me, very cool and interesting. Like, I was all the time asking, so how is it going on, how you manage it? And she was quite good. She's still vegan. It's been 3 years for now, and she's very happy. And also, I have 2 male friends. They became vegetarian also. One of them decided to be a vegetarian due to cholesterol issue, a health issue, and the other just, wanted to do it. He didn't like meat at all, and it was very rare in Turkey for a man, doesn't like meat. And I do know a lot of vegetarian people. For example, my mother is half vegetarian because she only eats fish as a meat, but not the others. And so, yeah, we do have.
Last week you spent here in Germany on the media camp FaceUp, and you were talking about this topic. You were even making one production, a video report, and I would like to ask you first of all about the week. How was it? What did you do? What did you learn?
Well, for me, it's not the first media camp. I would like to say that I'm an experienced user of media camps. So basically, I like the concept. That's why I keep joining. And basically, about this particular Germany edition, I would say that it was super cool in the way that it's my first time in Germany, the first time. And I felt that everything was well organized, and I'm not just saying it. So actually, my team did a good job. I felt that we had kind of a connection. Maybe in the first days was where the connection was a bit dizzy, I would say. But till the end, we managed to do something really, really nice. I would say that our final product it's really interesting, and I felt that the other person in my group really had the chance to improve their skills. So basically, I have a really positive feedback about this week.
BIRSU, what about you? Because Daniela is already an experienced user, but also an experienced media maker, movie maker. So what about you? Because for you, everything was almost new.
It was very new, yeah. It was fascinating for me. I did really enjoy, and in the same time, I did learn very, very good and detailed things, especially about technical parts, because I had also participated in another media camp, but it was Citizen Media in Istanbul in November 2015. It was 3 months ago, but we didn't have a chance just to see the technical parts about camera setup and just recordings, editings, this kind of things. But this time, 2 of them matched and overlapped very, very good. We did use camera a lot, and our trainer did a very good job. He just showed us, and then he just made us to just use it and record all the time. What he was saying, record, never stop recording. Yeah, we took a lot of photos, and we record a lot, and we tried editing, and as Daniela said, I agree with her, we just managed to be a very good team here. And it was sometimes very busy, I do understand, because technical and new. But on the other hand, it was so enjoyable. I mean, even though we had very good workshops and we maybe felt exhausted, but we managed to have fun and we laughed a lot. I loved what we did. And about media camp, it was very good for me. Yeah.
Well, what about your product? Because soon we will see it, and you were actually talking about also health issues that was your general topic, and I would like to know how did you deal with choosing the aspect of this topic, because it's a huge thing, the health issues. So maybe to BIRSU, because you joined from the beginning, how was the brainstorming, how you decided, and so on?
First of all, we just started to write down the ideas. The major topic was health issues, and we tried to split up some headlines, what we knew about it, what we can just divide into, like mass production, vegetarianism, veganism, sports, energy therapies, yoga, a lot of things. We found out a lot of things, and we maybe spent 2 days completely just to make these brainstormings, and then with majority and voting, we just decided to just go deeper about vegetarianism and veganism, because they are completely new for world, not personally, and here in Germany it's quite common and often, and I do know you can find a lot of beautiful places to go, maybe the opposite part of Turkey, because in Turkey you can find some places, but you should know where to go, how to find this kind of things, and they are not like every part of the town. So we just wrote down everything, we searched, we googled, we discussed, and then we finally agreed about the minor topic, and we started to make interviews. We wrote down the questions, we decided whom to talk, where to talk, etc.
So maybe the last question before we will see the report which you created, because there were many people for one camera, for one video report, and many people from different countries. So how was it actually to cooperate with the people who firstly you don't know, and secondly who speak another language, and thirdly who come from completely another countries? And to spend a week and to divide the tasks, it's not that easy.
I guess I will take this one.
You can start.
Well, I guess the language is not pretty much a problem. We may not have a perfect second language, but we managed to deal with pretty much no problem. And the second thing, I guess we were all open to this kind of things, and we didn't have some wall in front of us, so we just broke the wall and just tried to make a connection. And basically we managed, because I arrived 2 days later. I tried to come with my knowledge and help the team with deciding what we really want to do, and I guess that was a success. About the video, we managed to find some vegetarian person and a vegan, but we wanted also some specialized opinion, so we had the occasion to make an interview with 2 specialists from a lab. So we kind of have some personal explanations, and also some real facts, like it is what it is. It's not something that I believe in or what you believe in. It's like black and white. So I guess the material, it's really, really interesting. It will be really interesting to see it again. So I guess pretty much everything was really good, because everybody was open to do this, and nobody had like, I don't want to do this because I have whatever reasons. So I would say that everything was like real success.
BIRSU, would you like to add something?
Well, nothing very different what Daniela said. Yeah, she explained very good, and it was we're trying to communicate in another language, which is not our native language, but whomever came here didn't break any wall, so it was the good thing. We were so open to just understand each other, and how can I say, naturally. Who knew the thing very good, Daniela or like our trainer Ikaro, or whomever had a very good and detailed idea, just said it, and we just thought and we agreed, and if we didn't like, we just tried to improve, not to just reject it. No, it's not going to be happen like it. Oh, we tried to understand and realize, and it just, a few hours later, we were just Incorporate.
And I would like to add something because I felt that this was a bit different from the other media camps. Like she said, every idea that we showed up, I mean, maybe it was like a super bad idea, but nobody took it like, okay, you don't like my idea, I'm going to be mad, sad, I'm going to leave home, this media camp is really bad. So nobody took things like really personal. It was like, okay, your idea is not that it's not good, we cannot implement it. So basically, I really appreciate that nobody took things like personal and then just don't implicate themselves anymore. So this is like what I can say that I really appreciate the most, because it was really different.
Do you have the title of your movie?
We have one, but I will say that maybe it's not really the official name. It's Vegimit, Vegmiti, something like this. It's a combination. It's veg from vegan, but you have another G from vegetarian, and then you have meat, but it's not meat, it's meaty. So Vegmiti.
Okay, so I'm very curious about the video, and I would like to thank you. Before you will go and before we will see your movie. So thank you very much for coming and for the discussion. And let's have a look at your video report, Vegmiti, right? Okay.
Veganism, vegetarianism. Those ways of eating are becoming more and more popular in our society. Does everybody know what it means exactly? Is it a matter of health issues or an ethical decision? We've got some interviews to go deeper into the topic.
I decided to be vegetarian actually quite a long while ago. Okay. I think it all started when I was a kid, like, I don't know, like 8 or 10 years.
Oh, really?
Old. Yeah, and it started just because I didn't like meat, actually.
Okay.
I've been a vegetarian for a few years more, but then went active in the animal rights movement, and it's just that I didn't know the suffering of cows for milk or the suffering of chicken for eggs. And actually the first time I saw that with my own eyes, there's no possibility to know that and to have seen it by your own eyes and produce that by buying eggs or milk anymore.
Do you have the impression that it is kind of a trend, or it becomes modern and popular to be veggie, to be vegan?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know why exactly, but in the past few years it really started to become more popular to be vegetarian, to be vegan, and to live healthy. And I think it's a very nice trend because as I have realized myself, being like not eating meat that much or not at all, it actually improves your health and you feel fitter, and I think it's a very nice trend, and I think more people should join in.
I've never been a problem being vegan. I check my blood about every year once, just to be sure, and I never had a problem. So
here in Münster, is it hard too to be vegetarian, to be vegan, or do you think there are like places to go?
Oh, I think here in Münster it's pretty accepted actually. There's lots of vegan and vegetarian restaurants here. Yeah. There's lots of biological supermarkets where to buy like bio stuff, and
I don't think that ethical veganism is hard.
Well, it does affect me some way. I mean, not as hard as it does to vegans probably.
Actually, when I went vegan 5 years ago, veganism had another standing in society than it has now. 5 years ago, many people thought they're vegan, what is that? Most people didn't even know what it is.
Veganism and vegetarianism are very similar. In both dishes, you never eat meat. Vegans also avoid every product coming from animal. For example, eggs, milk, and honey. Is that nutrition completely without risks?
The advantages are you don't eat animal products, so you have less fat. You eat, instead of animal products, you eat more plants or vegetables, fruits, and so you have more fibers.
You eat less animal products, and that can be an advantage, but it can be also a disadvantage regarding to vitamin B12. because it's a highly important vitamin. And there are some supplements that you can take.
Intake of the iron from I don't know, from spinach or something, or from lentils is not that good as the intake from iron from meat.
And there are some dangerous. For example, if you're pregnant, if you're a pregnant woman, and you're a vegan, you won't eat fish, and the fish contain very, very important unsaturated fatty acids, which you can only get, or almost only get, from the fish. And it's very, very important because it's, for the development, for the neurological development of the brain of the child.
As the specialist remarked, this kind of way of eating is not completely out of risks. For this reason, it's very important taking care of replacing all of the nutrients with combination of food and synthetic food supplements. As we got, there are different motivations and reasons for being a vegan or vegetarian. It does not only affect what we eat, but also the lifestyle. Consider that wool and leather are also animal products. Veganism and vegetarianism are both a different lifestyle and ethical decision and a stand against animal mass production. This topic is very actual and it is a fond of discussion. Let's see what will be the way of eating in the next year.
After watching the video of the first group of the Face Up project, I would like to invite the other participants, Nora Ashtege from Germany. And Katarzyna Krukar from Poland, living in many different countries actually. Welcome, girls. Thank you for coming. First of all, I would like to ask Nora, because you were the part of the first group who was filming the video report about veganism and vegetarianism. How was it to realize this topic in Münster? Because you are living in Münster, is it hard, or it's in each corner of the city you can find any vegan or vegetarian restaurant and vegans and vegetarians?
Well, I would say in Münster it's pretty easy to realize a project because it's a student city, and as we've said, there are many, many places where you can go as a vegan or as a vegetarian person. I would say minimum in every restaurant you can order vegetarian dish, and normally there's also a vegan dish. And there are a lot of vegan people here. It's maybe also because there are so many students living here. Well, maybe it's connected, I would think it. For example, even in the student canteen, there are now vegan buffets. So it was, in my opinion, quite easy to find persons. I mean, we found a vegetarian girl and also an activist in the animal rights movement, what is quite interesting, I would say. And we had the luck also to get an expert opinion from two researchers of the food chemistry. Yeah.
Are you vegan or vegetarian?
Well, I'm not vegan and not vegetarian.
But you don't eat that much meat?
Yeah, this is true. For me, it's important, as we've heard before from the other
guests.
Yeah. For me, it's also important to know where it comes from. So I really don't want to support the mass production, and therefore I try to eat not so much meat, but I also don't feel like eating meat all the time. For example, when I cook, normally I don't cook meat just because I don't feel that I really want to eat it. I know, as we've also heard in our report from the experts, that it's kind of good for the body because otherwise you get a lack of, for example, vitamin B12 or iron. So therefore I know that that I sometimes should better eat it, and then I try to get like bio meat or a local meat where I know where it comes from. But I really avoid, for example, to go also in restaurants. I normally do not order meat because you never know in a restaurant where it comes from. Yeah, that's it. So I try to think about it, and I try to eat less meat, but maybe I eat it like once or twice a week normally, yes.
Katja, because your experience is kind of big, the international experience. You were living in Spain, in UK, now you are living in Germany, you're from Poland. So you have kind of a comparison about the cuisine, about the culture, and how the food is and looks like, the food industry. So if you could slightly and shortly compare the situations in all of those countries, what you've seen, and what would you mark to say overline?
You mean Bailey goes through all countries meat industry?
If it's possible.
Well, I have no idea about the meat industry. I'm not the specialist in this area, although I'm coming from the Polish culture, and then we do like meat, and I think it's coming also from the times where, for example, my grandfather, he used to eat meat once a year because the meat was so expensive that times, like after war or during the World War II. But right now it's a kind of sign of being wealthy, so, and a sign of hospitality. So we serve meat every now and then, and it's all connected with the guests and with the celebrations time. So we do eat meat a lot in Poland. In Spain, again, I have no idea about the meat industry whatsoever, but the cuisine, Spanish cuisine, is lighter than Polish. Also, I think it depends on the weather as well. And they have the sea, and so the sea brings you the fresh fish, and the fish markets are more available than in other countries, like from what I've experienced. Then UK, that's the country where I've seen that and they balance this meat production with veganism and the idea of vegetarianism and veganism. So basically in all restaurants you have very well marked dishes, and they really balance the menu in all those places. The same as with the shops and with the food. But again, and here we come to Germany, and in Germany the well-known Bratwurst or the Currywurst is something that is remarkable for the place. I think it's the meat production, from what I've understand from our discussion and the movie, it plays a major role in Germany, and I can say from my experience it's pretty difficult to find vegan or vegetarian places or products.
Do you, when in the time when you were in Poland, did you meet many vegetarians or vegans in Poland, for example?
I do have friends who are vegetarians or vegans, but they are at our ages. I don't know anyone who is older who's practicing veganism or vegetarianism.
The thing is also, I think with this older generation, especially in Poland, it is like this, because I'm also coming from Poland, that mainly they're saying, when, for example, I am saying that I don't eat so much meat, they don't treat any dish which is without a meat as a proper dish. So they immediately think that you will be very slim, that you will barely survive. And I mean, as you said, it's proven basically proved that it is not that good to not eat meat at all. But also it's exaggerated, yes, that it's not the food. But how it is with the older generation in Germany? Because you were also mentioning that they are the students mostly who are vegetarian and vegan. So on the older generation level, is it popular, or they think like in Poland, for example?
Well, I would also say that it's a thing connected to the age. Most people I know who are vegetarian or vegans are also like our age, and I would also agree that the older generation often eat meat, but nevertheless, I would say they kind of accept that vegetarian movement. But for example, the generation of my grandparents, they lived with the Second World War, and therefore they had also experienced a time where you had basically no food, and therefore they cannot really understand the reason why you stop eating it, because for them it's like kind of, okay, now we live in better conditions and we can have it, so why should we not? But yeah, so I agree, it's kind of, yeah, connected to the age.
Did you, because you were having this man who was vegan, did you ask him about this health issues, that it's not maybe that healthy when he's not eating, first of all, meat, and second of all, any products which comes from animals?
Yeah, we've asked him, and well, he answered us that he would be completely healthy and he would feel healthier than before, and that he would always do blood checks. He checks his blood. Well, I mean, I don't know the truth, so I cannot say anything about it. He said he would feel pretty healthy, but as we've heard from the expert, this is not always true, because you have to really be careful that you replace some supplements, and otherwise you would you can get really diseases. So I think it's not that easy to be vegan, because for example, if you get a real lack of iron, you will feel really, really tired, and you're not that active and productive anymore, and this is really bad.
Kasia, how your diet looks like? So like, what do you eat? Do you eat the normal amount of meat, or like Nora also the less amount? And also, do you buy bio, for example, or it doesn't matter for you? Or maybe you eat fast food?
I try to avoid fast food. It doesn't mean that I never do that. I do eat meat. I like meat, and especially when I'm back in Poland, then I know that where the meat is coming from. That's why I allow myself to have this meat feast, so called. But then I'm coming back home to my normal standards, and more, including more vegetables and more actually dairy products. I can't imagine myself being vegan. It's something that it makes I think of the balanced diet as all the products all together, and I don't think that even the meat production is that more unhealthy than the vegetables production, and we haven't discussed, but still all the chemicals and pesticides that are vegetables involved in, and it's an issue as well, I think. So
that's the issue also for vegetarians, that it's not basically enough to eat just vegetables, for example, but also to have it also from the bio farmers, because otherwise there is also full of chemicals. Have you ever tried the food, for example, the bratwurst for vegans, because those stuff like this are existing, and I'm not that sure if they are that healthy as they think.
I've tried, they don't taste. I've tried, it's not the soya, but something, it's called quark chicken in UK, and it's quite popular that people do substitute meat with that stuff, but it just even it looks like a chicken breast or the sausage, but the structure is absolutely different, and it tastes like a paper, to be honest. But you've asked if I eat bio vegetables. I don't eat bio meat because it's twice expensive, and I try to avoid basically the huge amount of meat. I don't buy processed meat. That's the thing. I like to see the piece of meat, and then do something with this piece of meat myself, so I kind of know what's inside. But in UK, I used to order the food online from the local gardeners. So you get it's called the green box. You get to buy your products there, but again you need to count the price, and that was as well something you basically can't get good meat, good stuff for no money.
Also, it's also typical in Germany to order, for example, the foods directly from the farmers.
Well, I've never heard about ordering green boxes online. That's interesting, but I know. Yeah, I know that you can order it, for example, on the market. You can go there to stands and you can say, hey, next week I'm coming here, I want the green box, and you can order it also from farms and they will deliver it to your home. So this is possible, and I would also agree with you that it's that topic of vegetarian and veganism, it's also connected to the money, because especially vegan food, it's quite expensive, so not everyone has the possibility to buy it. For example, when you are vegan, you cannot eat milk, so that means you cannot eat cheese, you cannot eat ice cream, you cannot, there's so much, and then you go to these bio stores, and when you buy it there, for example, ice cream, a box is about €5, and the cheese is much more expensive. And you can also buy cheese without milk, and then you buy cheese with soya milk, but it's quite complicated, and this is really expensive. Yeah, so this is also a question of money.
Do you also think that the food like this, it's actually healthy when you have the schnitzel who is in a vegan version created by soya, and also the soya plantation, supporting the soya plantations is actually not that good. But what about these health issues?
Well, I'm not an expert about it, but just my personal impression is that it can't be that healthy. I get the impression that if you avoid to eat all that, you eat so much soya, for example, and I think that this is probably also not good for your body. But I'm not an expert, so it's just my personal impression.
Kasia, you were joining another group, and you were filming actually a short movie. And I would like to also ask you, because you had the same topic, the very general one, health issues, and how the brainstorming looked like. How did you decide what will you do and how will you do?
So we came with the idea that we will make some kind of advertisement, whether positive or negative. We went through subject like with the health issues like drugs or alcohol, and then I had some idea behind that. I'm pretty interested in this move called slow move. Slow is slow food or slow life. So the group was pretty open to that idea, and we came across what is connected with this subject, and then we make a brainstorming about that, and we came across to with few ideas to compare the fast life and the slow life, and what can be beneficial for us. I've recently came across with some kind of statistics with saying that the people at our age, like between 20 and 20s, 30s, they're getting heart attacks because of the lifestyle, and I think that's scary. That's something we need to consider in our life, because I know the career is very interesting and important, but we need to see, we need to have a bigger picture of our existence, and that was the background for our small advertisement.
How was it to cooperate with people from different countries, because we were also a mix of different cultures and different countries, to record also a short movie together?
I think it was very smooth, and I don't think that our country or nationality or any different influence on our work. It just added to the value of the movie, and we could see from this, for example, subject or the idea for filming different scenes from the different perspectives, and that was really interesting with the language. There was no problem at all.
What's the title of your film?
The title is Food for Thought.
Food for Thought. Okay, so we will see it soon. Thank you very much for joining the debate and the project. And I would like to invite you to have a look at the movie. And on the meantime, I am saying goodbye.